Hello and welcome to Fine is a Four-Letter Word. My guest today is Marc Zalmanoff. Welcome to the show, Marc.
Hey, thanks for having me. I am excited. For anyone who knows me and doesn't know me yet, I love running my mouth. So this is my jam. So I'm excited to be on here.
Excellent. I'm trying to remember how we first met. I don't know if it was through Success Champions. I think we were connected somehow before that. But
We may have been, when you get in this entrepreneurial world and you start to understand how small it really is, and it can seem really big, and because social media paints a picture of certain things, but like after a while, you're like, oh, we're kind of all connected, and there's only like this. I know it's not small, but it's small relatively speaking. Even just look
yeah.
at America. There's 330 million people or whatever. Like there's only a handful of us really pursuing things the way that we pursue and being public about it and being on social media. So at some point, like we're all crossing the same path somewhere along the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the same time, there's so many people that we don't know. And I bring that up because I've had so many conversations with entrepreneurs who have said, oh, well, people are already doing what I'm doing. Like everybody knows, I don't know, like Brendan Burchard, for example. And he's not a small, he's somebody that a lot of people know, but yet I'm constantly running into people who don't know who he is. And I just came across somebody today who I can't remember her name even, but I was like, how do I not know who this person is? Like you feel like everybody knows everybody, but then there's still always room for somebody else to bring in their knowledge and wisdom, which we're going to get to talking about in a minute in your case, because I love the new project you're on. But before we go there, what are the values and beliefs that you were raised with that contributed to you becoming who you became as a young adult and into now?
Yeah, great question. When I was growing up, it was my dad and my grandmother raised me. My mother wasn't in the picture. And my dad was never the type of guy that like sat me down and taught me lessons. It was very much, I just saw the example on a daily basis, and whatever I gathered from that is what I gathered. And my grandmother was the same way. And it's not that we didn't communicate and didn't talk. He just wasn't that guy. He just didn't sit down and go, no, I'm going to tell you about how to talk to people. And I'm going to like, that wasn't him, but he was a salesman growing up when I was growing up. And I saw him in the way that he communicated on the phone. I saw the way that he communicated in person. I saw the handshakes. I saw the eye contact. I saw the way that he treated people. I saw the way that he treated people when they would leave too. And so over time, I just kind of formulated this opinion of, okay, this is the way that we operate. And when you're young, you only have, and especially, we didn't have the internet and social media and all that when I was a kid. So I only had the examples that were being shown to me. I didn't have people, other people to look up to outside of, what you saw on TV. There was no content. There was no YouTube. I didn't read things at that time. Like, no, kids my age, we didn't read anything. But it was very much like you just treat people the way you want to be treated. And as mundane as that may be, and it's not this mind-blowing advice, it's what I was shown. And then my grandma was this like very happy, very joyful, very grateful person, outwardly expressed her gratitude really for just being alive. Like she faced a lot of stuff in her last 15 years, a ton of health problems. Mentally, she was always there, but health-wise, like her body really just gave up on her. But I saw the way that she handled it and the grace that she had and the joy that she continued to put out in the world and to people around her, despite her own quote unquote suffering and physical pain that she went through. And years later, removed from all that, I'm like, oh, like here's all the lessons that I was being taught that I had no idea I was learning at the time started to really come to fruition as I faced challenges. And look, I know we talked before, like my problems are first world problems. Like, I'm not going to make any mistake about it, but they're still my problems. And there's still things that I have to deal with. So at the end of the day, I have to pull from some of those examples of what I was shown and the way that they handled adversity, figure out, okay, what fits with what they showed me? How do I handle adversity? And then how can I get a little bit better at it too? because I coach people and I have for years and years and years. And those people face adversity, and I want to be a resource for them as well. So it was this just examples that I was given that ended up being, the foundation of who I am now. And thankfully, I was very blessed to have a great father and a great grandmother and really great examples, because not everybody has that. I was
Right. Well, I was
talking.
just going to say, everybody is pretty much, that's how everybody learns. Most of what they learn is by watching the people around them, whether they have good role models or not. That's how beliefs are instilled, is not so much by what people tell you, is by how they act.
Yeah, I was talking to a buddy of mine last week on my podcast, and what shaped him again was his upbringing, but the other way. He was like, that's what I don't want to be. I don't want to be like my father. I don't want to have a household where I'm never present for my children. I don't want my kids to have to raise my other kids because of decisions I've made. So, and again, thankfully for him, he chose that route. He could have chosen the same route, which,
Exactly.
we see that all the time. People just repeat that vicious cycle of toxic behavior until somebody's got to be the breaker of that chain.
Right.
And again, thankfully I had great examples. So I get to continue to instill that in my kids and the people around me as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. But you had some challenges in the earlier part of your life as well. I mean, as a young adult, that I'm sure that the lessons you learned from your dad and your grandmother helped you get through, but we all still have those stumbling blocks. That's kind of one of the points where you said, everything was fine, but wasn't fine.
Yeah, for sure. I, as a fitness professional for 20 something years, I started in a big box gym, and I got married really early and divorced really early. So, I'm trying to start a career, and then all of a sudden I find myself, I'm a single father, and, managing those things. And again, that's stuff a lot of people go through, but it's still your stuff to go through it. And it's interesting because my dad has always been such a great supporter of me, almost to a fault, where it's like there's a few times in life I just wish he would have called me out on my shit. I'd be like, I don't know if you're making good choices here or not. But again, super supportive. And then, I did well early in my fitness career. And so I decided, well, I'm doing well, so I'm going to go do my own thing. And I had this business partner that didn't work at all. And there were all these red flags. But, I was so stubborn in what I wanted that I was, at the time, I don't know that I necessarily see things as a sacrifice, but, I made concessions to make something happen that I probably shouldn't have. And I pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed because there was this selfish part of me. It's like, well, but I want that. And it wasn't, I've never been one to like, I'm going to prove them. Like, I don't know. I've kind of operated with a level of confidence where I don't have a lot of people that have ever told me I can't do this or I'm not capable of doing that. I don't hear those things. I don't have the haters that a lot of people talk. And I'm sure there's people out there who hate me because I'm so happy. I got that. But, so life starts coming at me again. I'm a single father. I'm trying to start a gym, and that's hard because I had no idea what owning a business meant at, 20 something years old. And then I find myself in another relationship. I have another kid. So now we got 2 baby mamas. That relationship doesn't work. So obviously I got some relationship issues that I haven't figured out. And that's one thing I didn't have a great example of. My dad was married several times. And again, he treated them kindly. I saw chivalry. I saw a gentleman. And I don't know what happened. That wasn't any of my business. From a kid's
perspective, right. We don't know.
That wasn't my business at the time. But again, nobody taught me how to have a healthy relationship either. Mm-hmm. So now I got business struggles and relational struggles. And I don't know of 2 bigger struggles in life that a person can face at the same time.
Right. What did your dad do as a career? Was he an entrepreneur?
He sold everything. He sold homes, shoes, pianos, cars. We owned a car lot. Most of my middle school to high school, we literally owned a car lot. It was a used car lot in Sherman, Texas. And it was at a time where you could still find really nice used cars that, like, his market was basically parents who were buying kids their first car. And at that time, for $4 or $5 grand, you could still get a really nice working vehicle that he would put me in if that needed to be the decision.
Yeah,
So
I was
he just
asking
sold
because I
things.
didn't know if you had a role model as a business owner.
Yeah, I mean, really, it was him.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
again, when you look at, like, we lived on the car lot, so
Mhm.
I never saw a P&L. I don't, I didn't know any of the inner workings other than, we put
Right,
nice
right.
cars on the lot, we take good care of them, we sell them to people. I was like, oh, that seems easy, relatively speaking.
Right,
Well,
right,
yeah.
right. And the gym industry is not, I mean, no business is like easy, but you have so much capital investment in equipment.
It's equipment, it's overhead. I live in Frisco, Texas, where my gym is located. It's one of the fastest growing cities in America, which means rent is not cheap. And I'm in an industrial building. We got the big
Mhm.
garage bay door. There's no heat or AC in the part of the gym where we work out. There's literally
So
three
I've
other
heard.
gyms. There's three other gyms in my parking lot. Like, right
Wow.
across from me, there's more gyms. And it's people will say their industry's saturated, and maybe it is, maybe it's not, but, like, the gym industry's hard, and I know very few people that are operating what's called a boutique style gym like mine that
Mhm.
really, really excel. And most of them have had to go online to supplement the income because there's such high turnover. The client turnover is enormous. The cost of acquisition of a client is enormous, and rent keeps going up. Like, it never gets
Mhm.
cheaper,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And we
Yeah.
can only charge so much in certain business models. Otherwise, there's a tendency you can really price yourself out. If I want to charge a lot more than I charge right now, I would really have to move locations and create a different type of experience. So I have this gritty, hardworking, style of workouts where people come in, and there's some pride that comes along with that, of, like, we do hard shit in the gym. And for most
Right.
of our clients, it's the hardest physical thing they will do any day of the week. But
Yeah.
there's some level where, like, if you're charging $1,000 or more a month for training, like, there's also Lifetime Fitness down the road. And
Mhm.
people can pay $1,000 a month to train down there, and it's nice and it's
Right.
bougie and there's a
And
sauna and a
right, to
spa.
have exactly, to have the resort style experience.
Yeah. So
They come to you for I understand people come to you for burpees.
I don't know if they come to me for them, but they
That's what they're served.
100% receive them, because I'm a giving person. Like, I
I
like to
know.
share the
I
love.
I know that about you. And yes. Uh-huh.
So funny.
Yeah.
People's aversity to burpees is hilarious. To me, it's like, I'm not saying they're easy, but it's literally your own body getting on the ground and getting back up. But I mean, you do enough of them, and it's challenging for sure. Take your breath away. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I've been in that. Yeah. I've done them. So then how did you move from the challenges? So you mentioned your business partnership that didn't work out. Let's go there first and then come
Yeah.
back to the personal relationship, their partnerships that didn't work out. But how did you work through that? Or how did you get, what was that experience entirely?
So we co-owned a gym, literally 50-50. And it got to a point where I'm like, this isn't working. I'm broke, like broke. And I literally just left. I took the people that I was training at the time that were, the clients were the gym's clients, but there had been this division because of the times that we worked. Like, I typically worked mornings, he typically worked afternoons. So it's like all the people in the morning got me, all the people in the afternoon got him.
Mm-hmm.
And I just told all my people, I'm like, hey, I can't do this anymore. I'm leaving. I found a place to train. If you want to follow me, I'd be super grateful for you to follow me. And most people did, which was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, like, I just ended that. I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
And that's the
So
last
you
time I ever
just
talked to
walked
this
out
guy.
the door and you're like, see ya, dude.
Peace out.
Yeah.
Because at that time, I didn't have good counsel. I didn't have bad counsel. I had no counsel. I didn't have I had zero counsel in my life. I didn't have people that I could confide in. I didn't have people that I could turn to and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. And so that's all I knew to do was just leave. And, so there were several years where business was just a struggle. Again, I was training people out of somebody else's gym, paying them rent for the space. So when we talk about fine, like, it was fine. It was
Mm-hmm.
never great. There were times it was really, really good. And again, it didn't necessarily rob me of my joy, but I know that like there was more, and I didn't know how to find it. And so just years of, being a couple of clients away from breaking through, but also being a couple of clients away from breaking and,
Yeah.
doing like odd internet jobs to make up income on the weekend, like, anything I could do to support. Cause now I got 2 kids
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a single dad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure that out. And so what ended up happening was several years later, this is probably, 7 or 8 years ago now. I started to see that there were other fitness people out there doing well. And I was like, well, that's refreshing because I don't know any. Like literally everyone that I knew was okay. No one was doing
once you
great.
see a role model who is doing what you would like to be doing, then it becomes possible for you.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, this is something. And I came across a coach that this is really the, kind of early on in this, like, I know business coaching has been around forever, but as Facebook grew in the rise of internet coaches grew, I came across this guy who had been in the fitness industry for 20 years at that point. And, he had this program. So I joined his program. I was able to join his program, and I started getting around other people who were pushing for more and striving for more and being successful. And that was probably one of the biggest turning points, was that initial coaching group. And I've learned a lot more from other groups since then, but that was the turning point, was me getting in the room, paying to be in the room with those people. And then as time went on, there were business strategies and techniques and things. And so it started to immerse me in this coaching realm of like, well, what else is out there? Who else is out there? What else are people saying? And, we've all heard of Tony Robbins and John Maxwell. And those were kind of, in my head, those were the 2 prevalent guys for, decades on end, right? Like we read John Maxwell books when I worked at Lifetime Fitness and in management to grow our own personal leadership. But it kind of came back around to that, like, oh, you have to work on yourself if you want things to be better. I'm like, oh, what a concept, right? Like, who knew? Right. Who knew my own personal shit would affect everything else that I do? And I was fortunate to begin to surround myself intentionally and sometimes unintentionally, just, fate would have it, around people that were in that realm of, hey, why don't you work on you? Like, what are your habits? What are your routines? What are you reading? What are you listening to? Because now podcasts were growing and people really started to pour into that and get away from the, watching TV at night and all those things. And so it's like little by little, like the Tim Ferriss show. That's one of the biggest podcasts in the world. Like I started listening to him, and he has all these world-class guests on that started to expand my mindset to what's out there and different ways of thinking and different approaches. And it's when I was introduced to Stoicism, which to this day, I'm a huge fan of Stoicism. I read philosophy all the time. I have a tattoo on my arm that says Memento Mori. And so, I kind of started to immerse myself in that, and eventually, joined a couple of other masterminds where, again, the real primary focus was work on you. And that became the theme.
And I just want to point out something here too, because for people who are listening, it's not necessarily, you don't have to be in physical proximity to people, because some people don't have the resources or don't have the, like, whatever, they don't have the time to physically get themselves in a group where, people are doing the same thing and up leveling. But we have so many resources that, like you said, podcasts or video, YouTube, on YouTube, all of that stuff to help raise your vibration, raise your energy, put you in the right environment around the quote unquote right people who are thinking more in line with where you might want to go. I just wanted to point out that, that there are so many resources that you don't have to physically be in a room with somebody.
I mean, the majority of the guys that I talk to on a regular basis that are in this circle of people that I associate with are nowhere near me. I got one of my really good friends. He comes to the gym. He lives locally. We chat. We've done business together. We've coached together. We've vacationed together. Like, we've done a lot of things together. But outside of him, I mean, most of the people that I look to confide in or mastermind with or whatever. They're all over the place. And, one of the coaching groups that I belong to, we meet up once a quarter throughout the year. We go to 2 days, we go meet up somewhere, we do events and things like that. But the world is different than it used to be even 10 years ago. You want to learn something, go to YouTube. Like I've been kind of mentoring. So I have a 16-year-old son. He's got an older brother that's not my son, but great kid. We have a great relationship, and he's started a car detailing business. And so I've been voluntarily helping him because I want to see him succeed. He's a great kid. Mm-hmm. He's got a great work ethic. He's really driven. He's got purpose in his life. And he's 19, right? Look, and we complain about these. I don't know what generation that is right now, but we complain about these kids. Right. But there's a lot of kids like him that want it, but they don't know where to go. So I've been mentoring him, but I was on a call with him last night. We were working through some CRM stuff, and he's like, oh yeah, I've been on YouTube learning how to do things. I'm like, see right there, like he took some initiative. Whatever you want to, almost anything you want to learn nowadays is on YouTube. Right. So if we don't have the money yet, if we don't have the resources to pay to be in groups, there's so much content. Like find the people that you resonate with and go listen to their stuff and go listen to their podcasts and go watch their YouTube and go watch their Instagram and go buy their book for $10. Like, never has information been so accessible to everyone.
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out when you were talking, but so you can go on now. About how you got yourself around the right people and started up leveling.
And so, the pouring into myself and really, taking a step back for a second, quit worrying about the business side and how much, we need to worry about revenue when you pay rent every month. But it was, okay, what can I do for me to be a better human being? And not how can I be a better this or that? No. Just me. How can I show up in the world better? And when I started doing that, lo and behold, all of a sudden, quote unquote, I have this great relationship with this woman, and my business starts to do a little bit better. And I look around and my circle of friends is growing. Again, it was almost non-existent. I just didn't have people around me. And all of a sudden I got these like men that I look up to, very specifically men, like, because as a man, sometimes we have this tendency to isolate ourselves. And then we go, everything's fine. It's fine. It's all fine. Everything's fine. And then they go home and suffer every day in their own shit because they have nobody they can go talk to about it.
Well, in a lot of ways, our society has shaped that. Like that's what we expect, or that's what we have created.
Yeah. I think it's a little easier now. I think there's more people talking about it, but that's definitely part of my mission with the Joy Code is targeting men that need that help, that need a place that, from the outside, they look successful. They appear to be successful. They make great money, but they're not happy and they are not fulfilled, and they don't know how to remedy that because most men will just work more. Like, I guess I'll just make some more money and see what happens.
Yeah. And I was having a conversation with a friend's husband a few weeks ago about this and how men are like, women will get together and even if they don't really know each other very well, they'll just start chatting. Like you can bond and you can start talking about the most intimate stuff in, 10, 15 minutes. But men don't do that. They'll talk about sports. They'll talk about politics, maybe. They'll talk about work, food. Yeah. But not their inner feelings, not their emotions. God, they have emotions. What are those?
Oh, it's so true.
And I think that's to the detriment of not just the individual, but as you were talking about earlier, to the family, to the society as a whole.
I mean, we have to learn how to communicate better, and communication, I believe, is the key to everything. Business, relationships, spirituality, even, all of it falls back to communication. And look, we don't need this like enormous group of people. I always say Jesus had 12, but he really only had 3. Like you just need a couple of people. But looking at males, like as a man, if you got 2 or 3 people that you can talk to, and those men have 2 or 3 other people they can talk to, and those men, like that's how we facilitate change. That's how we get better as a society, because you start to create this network of men who feel comfortable, not with everybody. You don't got to air all your shit out on social media, but just a couple of people go, hey man, I'm really struggling right now. Life is hard right now. Like business sucks. You know, my marriage is rocky. I don't have a great relationship with my kid, like whatever it may be. Like we need an outlet for that. And even if it's just to outwardly voice that, not looking for a solution at all, even just saying it out loud is a powerful exercise to be like, okay, it's real. But a lot of times when we say our problems out loud, they don't sound as bad, because in our head, we have all these stories and things floating around. But then you're like, you know, like I really need to work on my marriage. Okay, well, I can do that. You know, like there's solutions to those things. It's not easy, but like I can make that happen instead of this like story I make up in my head of how everything's going to shit and it's all going to fall apart tomorrow.
Right. Well, it's when you pull those demons out of the closet, they're not as scary.
Yeah.
Sure. What's that thing about something about shame lives in darkness?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And once you say it out loud and it comes to light, now you're like, oh, okay.
And we can see on social media, you know, there's some guys that have put their shit out there, and for the most part, they're never judged, because if somebody's been suicidal, if somebody's been divorced, if somebody's been addicted to drugs or porn or whatever, like so have millions of other people.
Right.
So they put the story out and everybody's like, I feel you. And they're like, oh shit, really? Like it was just that easy. Like I can talk about it. Oh my gosh. And we need more of that. Been
hiding in the closet with it for years and torturing themselves with the shame and the guilt. And look, once it becomes free.
Nobody is facing anything that somebody else has not faced before. And when you read, again, I read a lot of Stoicism. If you read Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, which was his own personal journal, if you change the verbiage of the way that he spoke or read it in a modern day, you know, translated language, you wouldn't know that was 2,000 years ago. Because it's the same problems. It's the same shit that all of us continue to face to this day. It's the same, you know, battle between bravado and humility and grace and compassion and greed and humbleness. Like it's the same thing. Like we haven't really changed that much. You know, the surroundings have changed, the environment's changed, but human beings haven't changed that much. And I think it's important to remember that you are facing something that literally millions upon millions of people have faced and will face at some point. So which means there's a blueprint out there to facilitate the change that you want. Somebody's done it. Go figure it. Go find it. Seek it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that leads into what you're doing now, the new project you're working on. Tell me about that.
So the Joy Code. 2 years ago, I had this idea, and then my wife got pregnant. And so we put all our focus on the baby, and we did a home birth and had a midwife. It was amazing, right? And then we had the baby. And so life changed. And my wife is also a business owner and a coach. And so we really spent the first half of last year trying to figure out life again and manage time and manage our own, you know, personal stuff and figure out what everything looked like. We were searching for a nanny, and it was really survival mode. We were talking about it over the weekend. It was really just, I know it wasn't like, oh, where am I going to eat? But it was true survival mode. Like what are we doing now? So it was not a time to launch anything new. But I had the opportunity to work with a couple of men last year who had reached out to me for help. And I've always been a happy person. I've always been a joyful person. Most of the time you find me with a smile on my face. Most people that know me would say I'm the happiest person they know. You know, I kick people's asses in my gym, but we have a lot of fun in here too.
Yeah, and that's what makes you happy, kicking their asses.
It does fill me up. Like it definitely fulfills me.
I know you.
So I was able to really help these two men work through some things and lead them to what they were looking for. I didn't provide the answer to them, but I asked a lot of questions. I gave them exercises to do. I gave them, you know, my own personal experience and things that I've worked with clients over the years. And so when things reoccur in my life, I do my best to pay attention to them. And I've had a lot of business ideas over the year that literally just faded away somewhere. And, I'll see something pop up on Facebook or something like, oh yeah, I remember trying that and that didn't work. But this idea of helping other people find more joy and fulfillment in life keeps coming back. Mm-hmm. And so as we approach the end of 2023, like we have a regular schedule, we have a great nanny, baby's a little bit easier because he's one now. So he's got a schedule and a cadence to him. My wife's finding her groove back with her life and her business stuff. And I'm like, all right, well, it's time. And so, I launched this initiative. I'm still working out the king, like any infancy stage of a business. I'm still figuring out, like, I know the purpose behind it. I know what I'm really good at. Still working out, like, how do I facilitate that? There's definitely two prongs to this, where one is more of the public. Like, I'm just looking for people who really want to be coached in that realm. And then there's going to be a corporate side where I go into companies to help with employee engagement and job satisfaction and those things like that. Yeah. But it's utilizing this skill set that I built over 20 something years of learning how to live life with joy despite what's going on. And for those listening, I personally define joy as a deep-seated sense of peace and fulfillment that is not affected by the external. It doesn't mean you're always happy. It doesn't mean you always have a smile on your face. It doesn't mean that you can't experience sadness and anger and anxiety and all those other things. It just means at the end of the day, like, I'm still content with me as a human being. And that if everything around me crumbled, I may be sad and I may be angry and I'm going to have some shit to deal with, but I'm still internally going to be a joyful person. And that's hard for a lot of people, because a lot of people I've encountered have never experienced what that feels like, because they've always been in chaos and turmoil and trauma. But I have a system that I know works, because I've seen it work over and over again, where I can lead people down that path. And everybody doesn't need to be the same, and everybody's level of joy and contentment, fulfillment is going to be different. But I truly believe that if we can do that for more people in this world, then the world gets better. And we don't have all this, look, you've been on the internet. It's a cesspool. We got it.
Right.
But like, you don't have to contribute to it. You can keep scrolling past things that you don't like. You can not have an opinion. What a concept. You could just not have an opinion on something. It's one of the most freeing feelings in the world.
You could just stay off the internet.
I can't wait for
really,
that day.
Like, you don't have to be on it, or you don't have to be sucked into it.
That's the truth right there. And, like, I've curated my social media to where I only see what I want to see. Right. So if there's people that I've followed or that are friends with me or whatever that are just negative all the time and always I just hide them. I don't delete them because I want them to see my shit. I definitely want them to see what I'm posting, but I just hide them so I don't see them anymore. It's great.
Yeah, you can do that. I've done that too. Like, yeah.
So fun. So fun.
It is.
But yeah, I'm really excited because this is something that I'm extremely passionate about, that I know I can facilitate long-lasting change in people. And the ripple effect of that is huge. It's the butterfly effect that we'll never know how many lives we affect by change like that. If I can go into a company and help the worker over there live a more joyful, fulfilled life, and he takes that back home to his wife and kids, and they see a better father and a more present husband and a better leader for the household just because he has more joy in his life. And they start to see that example growing up and that example around them. And those kids show up differently and they're a little more compassionate in the world. I mean, again, that's how change happens. So instead of this, whatever people want to call it, downward spiral of morality in our country and this like overbearing selfishness that's very selfish in a bad way, we get people go, no, I'm going to protect myself and protect my joy and happiness so I can serve others in a greater capacity. And that's all I'm trying to do.
Exactly. And I'm going to keep saying this, that selfish is different than self-care. And even selfish as a word is not necessarily a negative connotation. We've created it to be that, but being selfish in taking care of yourself so that you can be a better person for the rest of the world. Nothing wrong with that.
It's the oxygen mask analogy. Like they always say, put your mask on first so you can help the person next to you. Because if you're passed out, you ain't helping shit.
Right. Exactly. All right. So 2 more questions for you. 1, You're already a happy person, but what is and I know you're super energized because you like transfer that to your clients. What's the song that you put on when you need that extra boost of energy, or maybe when you're trying to inspire people to do more burpees?
So, so I have two. I love this question. I've asked this question on social media before, and I'm always woefully intrigued at the responses I get. In the gym, like if I'm really trying to get people to move, especially with burpees, it would be Bodies by Drowning Pool. And for those of you who don't know, that's a song that says, let the bodies hit the floor over and over again. So I'm like,
Okay.
how appropriate a song.
Very appropriate.
Let the bodies
yes.
hit the floor. For me, this is interesting because this came up last week. I was doing a really heavy deadlift, and I have a song that I've used for probably 15 years that is my heavy lift song. I know the cadence of the song. I know exactly when the part hits that I'm going to lift the weight that I'm going to lift. I know if I'm squatting, I know when to step under the bar. If I'm deadlifting, I know when to approach the bar and grab the bar and roll it out and roll it back in. And it's almost like Pavlov's dog. Like I've trained my nervous system to respond to that specific song. So I have this adrenaline rush in that moment, which is,
I love that.
It's a weird thing to do, but it can be done.
Yeah.
And in the song, because I was a wrestling fan for years, like I still watch it. Like, you know, if it pops up, I'll watch it. So there was a wrestler, Triple H, who, I don't know, he's like co-owner of WWE now. His theme song is called The Game, and it's by a group called Motorhead, which is a huge rock band, have been for years.
Mm-hmm.
But the song itself, when he comes out to the ring and that song's playing, he's got this whole cadence, and he comes out and he kind of hulks himself up and spits water in the air, and it's this spectacle, right? And so I used to see that like playing in my head when it was the same thing for me. So it's like when he's, you know, flexing his muscles and spitting the water in the air, like that's when I'm lifting the weight. And I've just trained myself like that. And it works almost every time. You know, sometimes I bite off a little more than I can chew, but that's my song right there.
That is magnificent. And I got to give it to you, Mark. That is the most detailed explanation of why a song is your song that I've ever heard.
It should matter. Like there should be some meaning behind it. You know, if it's just a song where you're like, I don't know, I just kind of like the song, like that's fine. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but like I think when there's some attachment to it, it allows your body to really respond in the way that you want, especially when we're talking about trying to hype yourself up. It's one thing to get in the mood for something, or, you know, I'm going to meditate, so I need this. But like when you're trying to literally almost artificially create some excitement and hype and adrenaline, like you need something that means something to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are giving me an opportunity to talk about for a second why I even ask this song, or why I even ask this question. And it's because for me, music has always been, and for a lot, I mean, there's science and research behind it too. It's very powerful, music. And especially when you have it personalized to like, this song means this to me, or when I hear this song, it gets me into this mood, or it inspires me to take on this accomplish, you know, this task or challenge.
Yeah. Have you seen, there's a video that I think I saw it last year. It's this lady in a wheelchair, she looks very old, and I don't know how cognizant she really is on a regular basis. You know, she kind of looks like she's just there, and they put some headphones on her and start playing classical music or ballet or something. So back in, you know, when she was a young girl, she did ballet. And again, she's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And the music starts playing. All of a sudden you see her start like moving her arms like a ballet dancer. And it was the music. Like it literally just flipped something in her brain. It's like, hey, we remember this. And it was like incredible to watch. Like how much in those 2 or 3 minutes, like she was alive again. And I don't think we we're so worried about, you know, medications and all these medical techniques and stuff that we forget how powerful some of that stuff actually is.
Yeah. They've done a lot of studies on in nursing homes as well, where they have residents who are completely unresponsive until you put on some music.
It's amazing.
It really is. All right. Now, joy code, or if somebody wants to get in touch with you to have you kick their ass in working out or whatever, either way, how do people get in touch with you?
The easiest way really is social media. Like I'm on social media all the time, probably too much. Facebook or LinkedIn. I got on LinkedIn. Uh,
Okay. All
I
right. And
avoided
I'll
that
have, I'll
platform
have,
for so long. Uh,
it's not bad.
no, it's great. It's great. It was like, my head, I was just making it to be something like, oh, one more thing. But it's an
Yeah.
awesome platform. It's a great way to connect with people. But Marc Zalmanoff on Facebook, Marc Zalmanoff on Instagram, Marc Zalmanoff on LinkedIn. Marc Z Fitness, that's MARC, the letter Z fitness.com is my gym website. And we're working on some Joy Code stuff. But I'm not hard to find. Like you literally just Google my name. My phone number is probably somewhere. Oh, my book. I have a book called Make Good Choices on Amazon. I have a podcast called Make Good Choices. Like, I'm not a hard dude to find. Like, I could never commit a crime because I'd have nowhere to go.
Well, there's some incentive to keep you straight on the straight and narrow. Yeah. Cool. I'll have links to that in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for joining me today on Fine is a 4-letter word, Marc.
So fun. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And for those of you listening, man, go live life. Put a smile on your face, nod your head yes if you want some stuff, and make good choices. It's too short of a time we're here to not do that.
I knew you were going to have to tell him to make good choices. I love that. All right.